I'd like to start with the local reporters and the local TV channels if we can. So let's start there, and we'll take some questions from the national folks after that.
Senator Vance, Karl Winter from NBC 26 here in Green Bay.
Hey, Karl.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. will remain on the ballot here in Wisconsin. The Wisconsin Election Commission says, despite him trying to get off of it in swing states. How do you think that affects yours and former President Trump's campaign?
Now, the Trump campaign says he'll speak about energy, inflation, and the economy. So expect more criticism of the Biden-Harris agenda and how they perceive it will affect voters here in Wisconsin. You live a long way from the southern border. Why do you think that is relevant to voters in Wisconsin?
Well, it's relevant because we may not see the large flow of illegal immigrants into the state of Wisconsin.
Karl Winter has been at the convention since it started and joins us now live with an update for us tonight. Karl?
Nina, it seems like the entire week has led up to this point, former President Trump's acceptance speech, and we'll have to wait a little bit longer. Looks like Eric Trump is still on the stage. Nina, we are hearing right now that the race has been declared. Tony Weed, the winner. I don't think the folks here at his watch party have heard that yet, as these numbers are still coming in live right now. But Nina, well, as some may have heard, Senator Vance wrapped up his speech by saying, "I will never forget where I came from." And that's something that he and his wife, Usha, took the opportunity to push here. This salt of the earth success story, the rags to riches story from a poor family in Ohio to the VP ticket. All eyes now go to the other side of the aisle, as many Democrats have expressed concerns about President Biden's health and fitness. Questions that the president or the party will need to answer at or by the Democratic National Convention, which is coming up August 19th in Chicago. Nina, I just talked to Tony Weed, and he took the stage here about 20 minutes ago, and he's declaring victory in this race. Although it hasn't been officially called, and he said he has not heard directly from Dr. Kristen Lyerly, his opponent, yet, he's declared victory. He's thanked his supporters. Democratic vice presidential nominee, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, made the Harris-Walz campaign's first stop in central Wisconsin Friday. I'm Karl Winter in Wausau, and Walz took aim at former President Trump's debate performance and tried to rally volunteers to get out the vote. And that's an issue that our voters in Northeast Wisconsin say is their number one issue going to the polls. How much do you think that Trump and Vance will lean into that as they try to swing some of these undecided voters?
The cost of living has been popping as the number one or number two issue, depending on how you ask the question.
Karl, has a deadly shooting so close to the arena changed the mood inside?
Well, John, people here in the secure zone are aware of the shooting. Some of the delegates we spoke with mentioned it, but weren't sure how far from the security perimeter it occurred. But it doesn't seem to have affected the mood or tone. It certainly hasn't affected the proceedings. It's just been a more tame day in general here at the convention. In front of a capacity crowd of around 4,000 at the Resch Expo, though about half the building was used, Harris began her speech with how close the election will be, a 1-point margin or dead heat in recent polls, slammed her opponent's recent rhetoric about January 6th, and presented her plans for what she calls an opportunity economy and supporting small businesses.
We know this election is about two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the past, his, and ours that is focused on the future.
4 speakers preceded the vice president, Democratic Party of Wisconsin Chair Ben Wickler,
here in the state, the land of the nail biters,
local tribal leader Shannon Holsey,
let's work every day to win this election,
congressional candidate Dr. Kristen Lyerly.
As a community and as a country, we are at a crossroads.
And local union leader Jim Ritterbusch.
That's why in November, my union brothers and sisters will work hard and hand across the country to defeat Donald Trump.
Supporters in line outside the rally said the main reasons they plan to vote for Harris are...
Number one, the economy. If you've been paying attention to the economy for the past 20 years, you'll know that Democrats are better for the economy.
Well, like everybody, I'm concerned about the economy, women's reproductive rights, women's rights, and period.
In her remarks, Harris forcefully responded to the second point.
One does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government should not be telling her what to do.
Wisconsin's Republican Party responded to Harris' visit with criticism of her economic policy, writing in part, quote, "This November it will be her failed record and delusional detachment from the harsh realities facing working families that cost Kamala Harris the presidency," unquote. Vice President Harris did not take questions from reporters, but she did note Thursday marks 19 days until Election Day. Friday marks 18 days. In Ashwaubenon, Karl Winter, NBC 26. The 45th president returns to Green Bay in interesting fashion, a campaign-branded garbage truck. At his rally Wednesday, former President Trump and all the speakers before him denounced President Biden's comment earlier this week, referring to his supporters as garbage.
For Joe Biden to make that statement, it's really a disgrace.
I can assure you we're not garbage.
Former Packers quarterback Brett Favre and national Republican leaders each told the crowded Resch Center they were not garbage. Speaking to a mix of red hats and green and gold jerseys, Favre said it would be insanity to elect Kamala Harris.
It's doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Sounds like the first couple of years of my tenure here with the Packers. So it's time to bench Kamala and put in the star quarterback, Donald Trump.
A current Packer joined Favre at the rally.
You may know the name Quadzilla.
Running back A.J. Dillon, sitting in the front row for Trump's remarks. The former president, back in Titletown for the first time since April, spoke for around 90 minutes, saying Vice President Harris, quote, destroyed the economy.
We will build American, we will buy American, and we will hire American. I will end the war in Ukraine. Would have never happened if I was president. Would have never. Vladimir would never have done that.
The Harris for Wisconsin team responded to Trump's visit, writing in part, quote, Donald Trump is increasingly unstable and unhinged, focused on himself and his own grievances instead of American families. That is why Green Bay's Republican State Senator Robert Coles has joined with dozens of other Republicans, independents, and Democrats from across the state to endorse Vice President Harris, unquote. Trump and his opponent, Vice President Harris, are both scheduled to be back in Wisconsin Friday, each rallying in Milwaukee 4 days before the election. In Ashwaubenon, Karl Winter, NBC 26. We'll get to that weather alert in just a bit, but first, voters across the Badger State took to the polls today to have their say in Wisconsin's spring primary. As for the turnout, well, the numbers were low to start off the day, with Green Bay city officials telling me there were only about 700 ballots cast in Green Bay by 10 a.m. and around 1,600 ballots by 4 o'clock, lower than previous February primaries when around 8,000 people voted. There were only 1 or 2 races on the ballot for Brown County voters, state superintendent, and a school board race for people in Green Bay or Wrightstown. Green Bay City Clerk Celestine Jeffries says the people who show up for every election still showed up, but not many others.
I don't get a sense that people are fatigued from November. I think it's just really cold, and smart Wisconsinites go to Florida. So I think there's that too.
And now for the latest results, starting with the race for state superintendent of public instruction, where one candidate will be eliminated. Democratic-backed incumbent Jill Underly is moving on, and it looks like Republican-backed Brittany Kinzer with 35% of the vote will join Underly on the April ballot. Jeff Wright, with just 27% of the vote, has conceded tonight and is out of the race. The next big race is for Winnebago County Executive, where the field will be whittled down from 3 candidates to 2, and Gordon Heinz almost pulled in a majority of the votes, but definitely got a plurality. He and incumbent John Damel will advance to April, while John Matz with 22.9% is out. More on that shortly. And finally, we're keeping an eye on the Green Bay school board race, where 6 of the 7 candidates will advance to the April general election. Looks like the incumbents James Lyerly and Rick Crossan are the first 2 to be safe there at the top with 19 or 20% of the vote. But if we look at the other page, Ethan Rouse may be the one that ends up being eliminated with just 6%, and we've got 100% reporting, so it looks like Rouse will not move on to April. For up-to-the-minute results, you can always head to our website at NBC26.com.